Hello everyone, welcome to Home Cooking with me Hema Subramanian. During the monsoon season or the cold winters, we crave for something hot and wholesome, and there can be nothing better than enjoying a nice bowl of soup. Today I'm going to share 4 healthy, hearty and wholesome soup recipes which are perfect for the winters. So let's get started and check them out. I have all the ingredients here that go into making the soup. For this recipe, I've taken 3 types of dals. To a bowl, add 2 tablespoons Toor Dal, 2 tablespoons Masoor Dal, and 2 tablespoons Moong Dal. Wash the dals, pour a little water, and let it soak for about 10 minutes. To the pressure cooker, add 3 teaspoons of ghee, 2 large cloves of garlic roughly chopped, small piece of ginger finely chopped, 2 large green chillies roughly chopped. Next add 1 medium-sized onion roughly chopped. Saute for a few minutes. Now add 1 medium-sized tomato roughly chopped. Next add 1 cup of pumpkin pieces. Also add 1 large carrot chopped. So mix all the vegetables well. So I'm using pumpkin and carrots for the dal soup. You can add other vegetables like peas or beans for the soup. So once you've sauteed the vegetables for a few minutes, add the soaked dal. Add 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric powder, 1 teaspoon of salt. Mix everything well. Now pour about 2 cups of water. Mix everything well. Just make sure the vegetables are completely immersed in water. Place the weight and let it pressure cook for about 3 to 4 whistles on medium flame. So after 4 whistles, I've turned off the stove. So you can see the vegetables are cooked beautifully. Cool this mixture completely. Now I'm going to grind it in 2 batches. So just add half of the mixture first. Pour a little water and grind it to a nice fine puree. After grinding the soup mixture to a nice creamy consistency, transfer it to another pan. Since the soup is extremely thick, we're just going to dilute it by adding a little bit of water. So this is going to give you a nice soupy consistency, not too thick or too runny. To make the soup all the more flavorful, I'm adding a teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon cumin powder, and 1 teaspoon Kashmiri Chilli powder. Mix everything well. So you can check for seasoning at this point, and if you do need to add a little bit of salt, you can add. If you do feel the soup is very thick, you can always dilute it by adding a little bit of water to get the right consistency. Let this simmer for about 5 minutes on medium-low flame. Just add a handful of fresh coriander leaves. Mix that in. It's going to give you a lot of flavor, and let it simmer for another 2 minutes. As you're simmering the soup, if you feel it's thickening, you can always dilute it by adding a little bit of hot water. So this creamy, protein-rich and delicious dal soup is done. Make sure you serve it nice and hot. I'm garnishing it by sprinkling some Kashmiri Chilli powder and some chopped coriander leaves. Now I'm just serving it with some nice papad by the side. You can enjoy it however you like. So if you guys are on a diet, or if you want to cut down a meal and enjoy something very light for your dinner, this is the soup to go to. I'll give you a couple of links for the other soup recipes that I've made. You can check them out as well. For the mushroom soup, I've taken 500 grams of mushrooms. So these have been washed clean. Slice them and keep it aside. To the kadai, I've taken 50 grams of unsalted butter. Next add 5 large cloves of garlic thinly sliced, 2 large onions thinly sliced, So you can see the onions are nice and transparent. Now I'm going to add the sliced mushrooms. Cook the mushrooms for about 3 minutes initially. You can see they're beginning to release moisture. Now I'm going to season it with some salt and pepper. To this I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. Now you can adjust the salt according to taste. Add some fresh crushed pepper. You can see all the moisture is evaporated and the mushrooms are cooked beautifully. Now I'm going to add 500 ml of water. Cook the mushrooms for 10 minutes on medium flame. So you can see the mushrooms are cooked beautifully. Turn off the stove. Bring it to room temperature. The mushrooms have come to room temperature. Transfer it to a mixer jar. So if you have a hand blender, you can also blend it using a hand blender. Just pulse it a few times. So I've blended the mushrooms. Now you can see it's a very nice creamy paste. Transfer the blended mushroom paste to the kadai. I've added 1 cup of water to the mixer jar to remove all the mushroom paste that was stuck in the jar. So if you can see, the mushroom soup is very thick and dense. I'm just going to dilute it a little bit. I've added another cup of water. Bring the soup to a boil. So there you go. Here is this wholesome, rich and creamy mushroom soup. You can serve it nice and hot with some nice toasted bread by the side. Here are 2 amazing and healthy recipes that you can enjoy at home with very limited ingredients, and they're very quick and easy to make. I've taken 1 medium-sized broccoli for this particular recipe. Just cut the broccoli into medium-sized florets. Once you've cut the florets, just put them in a bowl of water and wash them nice and clean. So we're going to make this soup in the pressure cooker. To the pressure cooker, add 1 teaspoon of butter. Next, add 1 large onion roughly chopped. Next, add about 10 to 12 cloves of garlic. Now, garlic adds a very good flavor to the soup. Saute these ingredients for a few minutes. Next, I've added 1 small potato. Adding this potato naturally thickens the soup, and those of you who don't want to use cream, corn flour or milk to thicken the soup, this is a nice way to do it. But if you don't want the potato, you can make the soup without that also. Now I'm adding the broccoli florets. Add that and mix it all well. Next, add 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1 teaspoon of crushed pepper. Now you can adjust the seasoning according to your taste. Mix that in. So now add about 1.5 to 2 cups of water. So we're going to pressure cook this for about 2 whistles on medium flame. So you can see the vegetables are cooked beautifully. So now we're going to cool these ingredients completely before transferring to the mixer jar. So once the ingredients have cooled down, transfer it to the mixer jar and blend it into a nice fine puree. Wow, you can see the broccoli soup is come together so beautifully. Just pour it back into a nice saucepan. You can see how nice, thick and creamy it looks. So I'm just going to dilute this. I'm just adding roughly about 1 cup of water. You can adjust the quantity of water according to the thickness of the soup that you like to have. So after diluting the soup, check for seasoning and add a little salt and pepper if needed. Mix the soup well. and bring it to a boil. So you can see the broccoli soup has come together so beautifully. It's a very healthy and very filling soup that you can enjoy. Now I'm serving it with some nice garlic bread by the side. You can enjoy it however you like. I'll give you a couple of links to the other soup recipes below. You can check them out as well. For the tomato soup, I've taken 10 large fresh tomatoes. Make sure they're nice and ripe. Chop them all into pieces and keep it aside. Now I'm going to cook the tomatoes along with a few other ingredients. For this, take a nice wide pan, add 50 grams of unsalted softened butter. Using butter will make the soup all the more richer and tastier. Once the butter is melted, add about 6 to 7 cloves of garlic that's been finely chopped and 1 bay leaf. Saute it for just about a minute. Next, add 2 small onions chopped. Saute it for about 2 minutes until the onions are nice and transparent. Next, I'm going to chop 2 medium-sized carrots. I'm adding carrots to the soup to make it more flavorful and more creamier. If you don't want to add the carrots, you can make the soup without them. After about 2 minutes, add the chopped tomatoes and mix them well. Next, add 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon pepper. Now you can adjust the seasoning according to your taste. Cook the tomatoes for about 3 to 4 minutes. Then add about 2 cups of water. Now this is a 250 ml cup. So I've added about 500 ml of water. Cook the tomatoes for about 10 to 15 minutes till they are nice and mushy. Make sure the carrots are cooked as well. After 15 minutes, open the saucepan. The carrots and the tomatoes are cooked perfectly. Now cool this mixture completely. Make sure it comes to room temperature before you puree it. Transfer the cooked tomatoes to a mixer jar and blend it to a fine puree. While blending, add a little water if required. Pour the puree through a sieve and strain it completely. Doing this will give the soup a very smooth and creamy texture. Transfer the puree back into the saucepan. Pour a cup of water into the bowl and pour the remaining puree into the saucepan. Mix it all together. Now you can see the soup is coming together beautifully. It's so smooth and creamy. This is the texture you're looking for. Next, add 1 teaspoon of sugar. This is just to balance the flavors and cut the sourness of the tomatoes. I'm also going to season it with some freshly crushed pepper. Next, I'm going to add a few fresh basil leaves. Adding basil definitely enhances the flavors of the soup, but if you don't have basil, don't worry about it. You can also do it without them. After adding the basil leaves, simmer for about 5 minutes. After simmering for about 5 minutes, before you turn off the stove, just taste the soup. If you require any seasoning like salt and pepper, you can add it at this point. So there you go. Here is this absolutely delicious, wholesome, hearty, rich, creamy and healthy tomato soup which is ready to be served. Make sure you serve it nice and hot with some breadsticks or some toasted garlic bread by the side.